It was actually first performed on Christmas Day in 1723 as part of the Vespers in the evening. The Magnificat are the words that Mary spoke when she was told about the birth of Christ. So of course those words are very powerful. They express her joy at being given this honour, and of course the result of which was Christmas. So it's very relevant to the Christmas season. It's very joyous music. It's a wonderful piece.
The way it's written is just amazing, and I think the trumpet has its role to play, with the angelic side of its character. Because the Baroque trumpet is so much longer than a modern trumpet. In fact, it's just a colour that should sort of float, a sheen, in fact, just on top of everything else. And particularly, for instance, the beginning is a build-up of its main arpeggio in D major, followed by this beautifully lyrical, flowing semiquaver run, which goes up to a high D. And, you get so used to hearing that hammered out. And in fact, the thing is about playing on old instruments that we can look at the only way it was possible to play it on an old trumpet is to actually sort of be guided by what nature gives you. The Baroque trumpet is actually almost the length of a modern trombone. But of course it's not playing in the same register as a trombone, which is, you would expect to hear a low sound. In this, with the natural trumpet, we're hearing it right at the extremities of its range that are possible on a piece of tube that length. So, and then with no rest, or virtually no rest, it's a real test. And how they played these parts back then, as I already mentioned, I think, is to have just developed a sort of floating way of playing, and just to absolutely just add that beautiful sheen on top of everything else.
It was an E flat when it was first performed, and then about 4 years later Bach rescored it slightly. He took out the recorders and put in flutes, and he also changed the key to D major.
The higher it gets, the more difficult it gets. So E flat, as it was originally composed, is even more strenuous. And I think it may have been, as in other cases with Bach when he rescored things, sometimes away from the trumpet to a violin, when things were too technically difficult. I think in this instance, D major is much more approachable as a key for the trumpet, and it's just that much easier.
I think as a performer, you have to approach it as if no one's ever heard it before, and you have to approach it as if you've never performed it before. You also need to talk directly to the audience. So if you're saying Magnificat, you're saying something fantastic's happened, so you've got to sing it in that way. There's no point in just reiterating the notes. You have to mean what you're singing about, and you have to understand what you're singing about.